Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angel, the Psych MP. What I wanted to talk to you about today is that you can totally be a full-time student as well as be a full-time travel nurse, which is what I did, and it's totally doable. My first travel nurse job, I was in Washington, D.C. at a hospital there. I went into PACU. That was my first travel assignment. Now, I'm an ICU nurse by heart. My first job was a intensive care nurse, and actually more specialized, a trauma intensive care nurse. That was my first job. I got into one of the critical care residencies. So I stayed to that job for 2 years. I already knew I wanted to be travel nurse because in school I had done some research. I didn't know any travel nurses, but I had done the research. And in my mind, it was just like, you're going to do this, because it didn't make sense to me to say, okay, well, I'm going to work and be a staff nurse doing the same job, but I was making 3 times more as a travel nurse than I was making on my staff job on my first contract. So the first contract, a lot of people got, but I don't think I got. I had a good contract. I had a decent recruiter, and I pretty much got paid for my specialty at the time because the hospital needed ICU nurses and they needed them bad. So I went on that job. That was my first contract. I was working 410s in a PACU. I went with they were there before me, 2 other travel nurses that I actually met at my staff job, and I met them out there. We got an apartment together. In Maryland, we caught the train until I shipped my car out there from Miami. And we did that for 6 months. Then it was time. During that process, the hospital kind of wanted. So what kind of happens when you're on a travel contract? They want to pay you this rate because they need you at the time. Then when things start getting better, or they kind of build a rapport with you, sometimes the nurse manager want to hit you up and be like, do you want to come on staff? And they're like, no, I'm a travel nurse. That's what I do. I don't want to be staff anywhere. And then it kind of be like, well, can I get you to stay at a lower rate? And it's like, it depends. Like, it depends on what you're doing it for. It depends. So I was in DC. I absolutely love DC. I had a ball while I was there. Met some wonderful people in DC. That's another thing about travel nurses, the people you meet. Met some wonderful friends there, people that I still keep in contact with to this day. But I wanted to move on. So I heard about Cali nursing. I had already applied. Actually, I already had my license for Cali because I went on a strike there while I was still doing staff nursing. So here's a little trick for people who are a little bit scared of leaving their staff job and going to travel nursing. You could become a strike nurse. So what I did was, when the strike came about, sometimes you get these little warnings if you in tune with certain groups or certain people, you know about these strikes. So usually they give a warning before the strike happens, and then you have some time. I put in you don't know the exact days though, because at any moment they can give you there's a notification and be like, strike notice received. Once the strike notice is received, then the companies go to calling, trying to get you on board, and you usually have to fly out like right away. But what I did was, I told my manager on the unit, like, hey, I need a week off, like really bad. I got something to do. I needed a week off. And I was able to get it because at the time the hospital was in short staff. The census was low. I got off, got the 7 days off. I flew out to Cali, did that strike in Northern California, and I came back home with an extra maybe $7,500 for 1 week of working. So if you're a staff nurse and you're kind of scared of like getting out there, that would be something great for you to do, like in between, take the time off. Sometimes too, what you can do as a strike nurse as well, you could do rapid responses. So this is something too that you can kind of do as a strike at your full-time job. If you have some leave or whatever, and if they let you take like 2 weeks leave, sometimes there are 2-week contracts out there paying about $4,000 per week. You could go on your 2 weeks vacation or whatever, go get a rapid response, make $8,000 and come back and work your staff job. I know a lot of people scared of leaving their staff job because of retirement and, benefits and stuff like that. Every contract that I had benefits on it. You have the option of getting benefits on your travel contracts. You have the option. You just gotta request it. I was paying about $100, one company I was paying $100 a week. I had United Healthcare. I had, I think, Delta Dental or something like that for my dental insurance. I had insurance. You just gotta pay for it. It's, but you're making the money. Like, some of y'all too tight, like $100 a week, $400 a month. But, because the employee, when you have a bigger group of contracts, it operates a little different. So you probably see like 20 something dollars taken out of your check every pay period, or 30 something dollars, whatever it was. I don't remember. It's been so long ago. But $100 a week, when you're making $2,500 to $3,000 a week, if you can't pay that, you don't need to be no travel nurse. Stay at your staff job. And then, so anyway, back to what I was saying. So I got to Cali. When I got to Cali, I picked up a per diem job, because Cali per diem rates, depending on where you are insane. I was making about, at the time when I first got there, it was 2016. My per diem rate was, I think, like $87. Well, by the time I left that per diem, I think we were at like 91 or 92 per hour. And I also had a travel contract. So my travel contract is usually about 3 days. If it's flu season, I might get 4 days, or depending on how short the hospital is. So mind you, you have 4 days on a contract or 3, and you have your per diem, which usually only requires you to work 6 shifts every 6 weeks. So that's like 1 shift a week. So you have the time to go to school. You could pick a contract that has 3 days only, and then you got 4 days a week to do school. Or you could do 4 days a week. You got 3 days a week to do school. You got to utilize your time right. So when I was in Cali on that contract, there was a strike that came up. And on that strike, it was in Minnesota. We were there like 6 weeks. And then some people actually took contracts there and extended. That was a long contract. Like, I think that was like one of the longest contracts like people in my generation had seen. Usually it's like 1 week or 10 days, 7 days or 10 days, something like that. But 6 weeks, we was up there. We was like getting money. So it was cold too. But anyway, what got me back into school, at the hotel, they pay for you to go, to stay in the hotel on the strikes. When we would get off of work, there will always be a bunch of nurses downstairs, and they will be in their little corners where they drink, and they have their laptops, and they're doing schoolwork. So one girl I met, she was from North Carolina, and we're still friends today. She's actually out in Texas now fighting COVID, and she was in New York. Like, she's been like fighting COVID since like March, when New York was really bad. Now she's in Texas. But anyway, and she's a nurse practitioner herself, but they all were downstairs and they were doing work. And I'm like, what y'all doing? And they was like, girl, we all in NP school. And some of them were going to Walden. Some of them were going to, I believe, South University, were the 2 schools that mostly everybody was going to at the time. And she was like, girl, you need to get back in school. And I'm like, I don't feel like going back to school. I want to go back to school, but I don't feel like it. So I started telling her how I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and I just didn't feel like going to med school and all that stuff. And then we looked online right then and there, and she was like, I think Walden just rolled out their Psych NP program not too long ago. So we go online, we look. She gave me her recruiter's information, and that was in November 2016. And by February 2017, I was enrolled in the program. So it's totally doable. I got in the program. It just took me getting back into the swing of school, because I had been out of school for like 3 years already because I went and did my BSN online. So it was about 3 years that I had been in school. So it took me just getting back used to, when my time off, that I'm not just off, hanging out or whatever I do in LA, hiking and all this other stuff that I used to be doing. I had to prioritize my time and go to school. But let me tell you, I got a really good contract where, at a small hospital, the GI department, and they were so short in that GI department, but it was a very small department in a very small hospital, so they didn't have many cases. So my whole first year of NP school, like my theory part of it, I kind of did like in the last, I had a lot of time on that contract when my case, in between cases or whatever, to do little things like that. It's just about time management and utilizing your time. But I was working 3 days. I had 4 days a week off. And when I didn't pick up my per diem, I had 4 days a week off. And when I did do my per diem, sometimes I would just have 2 days a week off. But it's all about time management. But you making if you just do the 3 days, let's just keep it basic. If you just do the 3 days, you got 4 days a week to do your schoolwork. So you're making now, let's say at the staff nurse, if you on the East Coast somewhere, and depending on how long you've been there, but let's say as a staff nurse, you bringing home like $2,000 every week, and you're working 5 days a week, and okay, maybe if you do 7 because you need overtime, whatever the case may be, I was making that 3 days, really in 2 days, because my contract was about $2,800 for the 3 days. So you have the time off that you could just go to school and not worry about money. Because 28, let's say, I'm gonna round it off to 3,000. I was making roughly about 11,000 and something dollars a month. You ain't making that now on your staff job, and some people still go to school and do it and don't have as much time off. So you just have to utilize your time and you make the money. Now, for those of you who have families or any reason why you can't travel too far away, they do have local contracts that you could take. That if you don't live 50 miles, a travel contract means you live 50 miles away from your home address. If you don't live 50 miles, you can still take local travel contract. You just don't get the housing stipend. It's still more than you're making as a staff nurse. Now, I'm not discouraging anybody from being a staff nurse, because everybody has their reasons. Some people are not good savers. Some people can't plan for retirement. They need it to be taken out of their check, whatever the case may be, because as a traveler, you do have to set those things up on your own. But if that's not your situation, become a travel nurse. Become a travel nurse. It's outside of the money you make. It's the freedom for me. It's the freedom for me. Like 1 year, I legit worked probably like 6 months out the year, and the other 6 months, I can't tell you what I was doing, but I wasn't working, and I wasn't worried about no money either. So I'm just saying. But a lot of people asked me under one of my previous videos about how did I do travel nursing and get my master's at the same time. That's really the ideal situation. That's really I did my BSN full time, and I also did, and it was all online, and I was working full time. I had nowhere near as much time free to do my BSN, and I was a staff nurse, but I made it happen. I'm just here to tell you that as a travel nurse, the time is not the issue. You got all the time and you got all the money. It's just what you gonna do with the time and the money, because it's there. Now, another thing that I would like to say is that the master's program, as far as difficulty is concerned, again, I didn't feel like it was horribly difficult. It wasn't difficult. It's just, again, you tapping back into that school mode when you really don't want to do it, because you think about it. You're making 6 figures as a travel nurse, working way less days as you are working as a staff nurse. Sometimes you start going through those classes and you get this one professor that's just like, I don't really have to deal with this because I'm already making the money. Because the truth is, a lot of travel nurses make more or the same money as a nurse practitioner. It just depends on what you're going in it for. I'm a mental health nurse practitioner. I wanted to be, I wanted to get away from the bedside, but equally, my passion was mental health, like helping people in a different way. Like if I would have worked in a crisis area, which is a mental health facility or something like that, I still wouldn't have been fulfilled. like I will be when I get my practice open and I'm helping people in a different way. So that was what was more important for me as well. But if your goal is not, if you don't have a problem with bedside nursing, whatever, travel nursing might just be the thing for you, and you don't need the master's degree, because I don't think I made less than 150 as a travel nurse. I don't think I made less than 150 no year as a travel nurse, and I'm talking working 3 to 4 days a week. And you know, I count my per diem in there here and there, but my per diem, sometimes my per diem only brought me maybe another 15,000 because I wouldn't go there all the time. But my per diem was so good sometimes that I wouldn't even go pick up a contract. If I could get 3 shifts a week at my per diem, I'm still making the same money because the hourly rate is the same. But the travel nursing money, the housing stipend and stuff, you know, you get tax free. So it's a lot of different things that you have to take in consideration before you make these moves. But my whole point of the video is basically, as a travel nurse, you have the freedom to go to school full time, and you have the freedom to work full time, make more money, and you know, do what you want to do at your leisure, on your own time, on your own pace. You just have to utilize it the right way. So that's all I have for today for this video. I just wanted to bring that to you guys because a few of you asked me about it. I will, if you want, I can make more videos about like how difficult was school, like a lot of the clinicals. I definitely have to make a video about clinicals, because them psych clinicals, Anyway, like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Angel, the Psych NP. Ciao.